Okay. Hello, this is Lady Tina Leader. I wanted to talk about small talk when you're not into pop culture or you're not into whatever the group is talking about. I just got off the call not too long ago from one of my clients, and she was talking about how she's not into what they were talking about. So, how am I supposed to contribute to this conversation? So, I've experienced this quite a bit, especially here in LA. There's a lot of people who are super into movie buffs. So, they know all of the actors' names, the director, the screenwriter, and they know all the movies that each person was in, each director directed, and all of these things, right? So oftentimes when I'm in those group settings or group conversation, I cannot actually contribute to the conversation in a way that the people who are into this can. I obviously don't know how to address certain things. I don't even know most movie title names, let alone the actors' names. I don't even know the character names. So when it comes to situations like that, you don't have much to contribute to in factual sense or in an argument or a debate, then I always go ahead and number one, ask questions. Ask questions. Now, you have to balance this out because sometimes they're really going deep into it. And if they're going really deep into their conversation, you don't want to interrupt the flow and just ask a bunch of newbie questions. And it depends where in the conversation it is. So, for example, if it's the beginning of a question, they say, "Oh, Mean Girls," even though I know Mean Girls, so that's why I mention it. But they're talking about Mean Girls. They're talking about the character and Candace and how she struggled through high school. So now they're getting into the details, and then they're talking about the actors' names. See, I don't even know any of this. How she actually was in another movie, Lindsay Lohan. She was in Freaky Friday, and so they start talking about Freaky Friday. Oh goodness gracious, I don't know what's going on anymore at this point already. Now, at that point, I'll say, "Oh, what was Freaky Friday about?" And then they can tell you, "Oh, Freaky Friday was about blah 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 blah." And then they might continue with their conversation and you might not be able to contribute too much. But that being said, just the fact that you asked certain questions during a group setting, especially once they get deep, little small questions that they can answer right away, is a great way to contribute to the conversation, even though you know nothing about what they're talking about, but you know enough to ask a basic question. Now, you don't want to do this too much, you don't want to interrupt the flow, but asking a simple basic question, that's number one. Okay, I want to check in with the live chat. Is it recorded? No, this is live. The one time I'm not working, I finally get the live. Yes. Great to see you, that guy. Is this recorded? No, again, it's live. Okay, so yes, again, I'm talking about when you're in a group setting and you have no idea what they're talking about, you don't know what to contribute. And so this is the thing that I go to. So, questions number one, simple questions. Number two, I have this in my description is facial expressions and how to listen with your facial expressions, because again, you don't want to interrupt the flow. So sometimes you just need to sit there and listen, absorb everything that's going on, be very curious about what they're talking about. You'll notice that if you're in a group setting, that if person A is talking to the rest of the group, then person A will tend to look at certain people. The more they feel they've built rapport with certain people, the more you'll notice that they'll look at that person even more. Once you start to really get into a conversation or you get into detail and you're nerding out about something, you tend to look at the person who you think understand what you're saying the most. This is fair. So in a group setting, you'll notice that the main person, the speaker who is speaking, might look at one person or the other more, and you might feel left out if you notice that they are not looking at you at all, or the other members of the group are not looking at you because they realize at some point that you have nothing to contribute to this conversation. If they were more socially adept or more outgoing, they might still look at you as a way to be not rude, essentially. But not everybody has that, especially once you nerd out about something, you tend to just want to talk about that thing, right? We all get that way when we nerd out about something. So we tend to look at those people who we know understand what we're talking about, who we built rapport with. But you have to understand that it's not just factually they understand what we're talking about, it's the rapport building. And it goes back to the dopamine reward system. We get rewarded psychologically when we feel like somebody understands us. So they understand and they want to know more. They're curious to know more. If they know what you're talking about, they at least have some sort of rapport built with you because they know something about it and you feel a certain connection. If you can build that same connection without knowing factually what they're talking about, then that same dopamine receptors will get released, meaning you could be social without saying a single word. And so again, I have a video down below in the description. I linked it up where you can listen with just your facial expressions. A simple one is leaning your head. So a head tilt is always a good one. Simon Sinek does this all the time to build rapport with his audience. He does a tilt and then he listens this way. So it seems like you're listening. We tend to do that when we get really hyper focused on somebody, or when we look at somebody and we do facial expressions when they say certain things, or if they get excited and you energetically, just your body, you get excited. You're like, oh, like, really? Is that what, even though you have no idea what they're talking about. But if their energy is here and your energy is here, you're breaking rapport. So you just have to get on the same energy. If everybody's laughing, you should be laughing too. Even if you don't know, you might be, ha 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 ha. Well, what is that about? Not in the awkward way. Don't over laugh, because if you don't know the joke, don't laugh about it. You'll be like, oh, okay, okay, like that. This must be really funny. This must be really funny. But you just have to get on the same energy level. So body wise, look at their body language, match their body language. If they're moving around a lot, you don't have to move around with them. It's not like that. But if they tend to go leaning this way, you can lean this way. And I talk about this in my mirroring video. If you want to mirror somebody to build rapport, all of this goes back to building rapport. So whether you're building rapport because you just know what they're talking about, so you know the subject they're talking about, you can contribute to that conversation, asking questions so they can talk about it more. People love to talk. So the more you can ask them questions, that's going to get them more excited about talking about what they're talking about. That's great. And then another one is to just match and mirror their body language, or it could be even their tone of voice or their energy level. So whether they're excited, be excited with them. If they're more calm, be calm with them. Just seeing and mirroring and matching what they're doing. Okay, where are you from? I'm originally from Tokyo, Japan. So yes, but I live in Los Angeles, California currently. Are you from America, US? Nope, I am not. Yes. Sometimes I get fixated on one topic in a conversation, but I am not about to transition to other topics without having awkward moments. How do I avoid this? Fixated. So is it that you get fixated on one conversation, but I'm not about to transition to other topics without having awkward moments? I'm not sure what you mean by that, but let's say that somebody else, or let's say you're fixated on one conversation. I do this a lot when I get super excited about something. I think we've all had those times where you're just like, I'm so excited about this topic. I'm reading this book right now. I'm so excited about this book. I want to tell everybody about this book and I can't stop talking about it, even though I'm repeating myself. And that's when I know when people are saying, hey, you're kind of repeating yourself. I go, okay, I have to hold back and have to turn back and realize, and then I redirect to them. That's my always go to, is that, okay, look, let me put the focus off of me and let me put it on you. And I say, oh, how are things with you? What are you excited about right now? Just as much as I'm excited about this book, what are you excited about? And so they might come up with something. They might say, oh, I don't know. And so whatever that is for them, at least you're opening a door for them to speak about something that they might be excited about, or just something that's going on in their lives. So I always redirect to the other person. This same goes for group settings as well. If you tend to speak a lot in a group setting, so maybe especially this happens with introverts that get super excited about something, we tend to lose focus on what's actually happening with the social group. We tend to lose focus on if somebody's even interested or not in your topic. And so it's easy to forget. And so sometimes I just remind myself on a conscious level that, hey, I've been talking about this for a little bit. why don't I switch the conversation to anybody else but me? So that's been helpful for me. How to make a confident body language. How to make a confident body language in general, I like to refer to Amy Cuddy's work, which is Expansion, and you can look her up. She has a TED Talk here on YouTube. But it's Expansion is always good in the animal kingdom. When we're expanded, it's more of the dominant standpoint. More dominant standpoint shows that you're more confident. Posture. I talk about posture in my Clear Speech course, not just because, of course, posture is good where confidence, you appear more confident, you appear more sure of yourself, but also it helps with your voice. It helps with the resonance of your voice. There's a reason why singers have really good posture, because it messes with their voice if they don't. And so it's harder for singers when they try to dance and sing at the same time. It's because their posture is out of whack. So posturing is good, and expansion, whether your arms, if I'm doing this, or if I'm just spreading out as much as I can, that's always more confident appearing. Do it as it's relevant to a situation. You don't want to walk around doing this. But that being said, you always want to expand as much as possible. For example, I have one friend who loves to talk about movies, which is easy to talk about, but I tend to struggle with other topics that I don't feel strongly or have a lack of knowledge in. This is exactly what we're talking about. So it's funny that you say that you're good with movies, because I'm so bad talking about movies. I don't know what anybody is talking about for the most part. I don't even remember the character's name even after I just watched the movie. So that being said, anytime you're in a situation where you don't know what other people are talking about, you feel kind of out of place because you just have nothing to contribute to, and you don't want to interrupt the flow, but you still want to be part of the conversation. Again, I go to questions, and then you want to not interrupt too much if they don't look at you as much. So you have to be keen on how much they look at you, eye contact wise, versus other group members, or if it's just one-on-one with the person, then you'll notice that they stop talking less. You can definitely ask questions or listen to them, or not, or listen to them, and listen to them with facial expressions showing that you are hearing them. Ask them more questions based off what they said. If asking questions start to become difficult because sometimes they're just whoosh way over there with what they're talking about, especially in a group setting where you can't ask too many questions without interrupting the flow of the whole entire group. In that case, I would sit back and listen. I would sit back and go, wow, and match their energy. So you're still part of that conversation, and you're still building rapport with the group. And so you still get the dopamine hit to and from other people in the group members. So you're not completely out of the group, even though you have no idea what they're talking about, which happens quite a bit. Okay. Sorry, were there any other questions? I'm good with pop culture, but sports is when I tune out. Yes, sports is when I definitely tune out as well. I know nothing about sports, nothing. So as soon as people talk about sports, I just listen, I ask questions. And the thing is, if you want to, you need to know, and this is something I learned in improv class, Second City, Los Angeles. Shout out, you have to know enough about basic stuff. And what I mean by that is that at a certain point, you do have to study certain things. So I didn't know anything about movies. I didn't even know, I didn't know anybody, no actors name, no movies that were even the most popular, well-known movies. I had to study, and I took the time to watch certain movies that were very popular and highly referenced too. And the most popular actors, I actually studied. I made note cards and I studied them. Why? So I can contribute into these small talk conversations that would happen. And it happens that because I'm in Los Angeles, California, I knew that these conversations would come up. So just like I would in a university, I studied, I Googled, I made note cards, I studied. So if you know that there are certain things that always tend to come up and you know nothing about because you're simply not interested in, I would suggest to study the basics. In sports, I would study to know at least well, how does each sports game, how does it all work? How does the plays work? For example, American football, very popular in America. When you talk to people who, let's say, if you're going to the yearly game, I don't even know what it's called. What is it called? The football yearly game, the ultimate one. When you go there, you have to know what teams. You have to actually study. You have to know what teams. You have to know what are their key star players. Just the basics. Nothing crazy, but just the basics. Of course, you need to also know the general play and how football works in general, so you can sort of keep up, even if you don't know the details of it. So I suggest whatever topic it is that you know you're highly not proficient in, yet when you're in social settings, it comes up all the time. I would definitely Google and study just for the small talk moments, and you'd be surprised how far you'll go just by knowing names and nothing else. If I don't know who Doja Cat is, but I know the name Doja Cat. Why? Not because I've seen or heard any of the music. Maybe I have, maybe I don't know, but I know the name Doja Cat. Why? Because I Googled it, and a friend of mine mentioned it. I was like, oh, I need to know enough to know at least her name and the fact that she's a woman, because Doja Cat, I don't know, it could be a man, woman, right? So I know enough to be like, oh, I know who you're talking about, even though I don't know all the details. So it's just things like that, that if it does come up quite a bit, if it comes up twice in any conversation with other people and you don't know what they're talking about, do a simple Google search. I suggest that. Okay, so this live stream is a little bit further, or it was a little bit longer than I expected. But that being said, thank you so much for coming on for the live. If you have any questions, comment below. Even after, if you're watching the replay, comment below, let me know. And I'd love to do more live streams just because I enjoy these. So I will see you on the next video, and check out the link down below as well on facial expressions and how to listen with your facial expressions. All right, I will see you on another day.